Uh, Hi, I'm Renee Baribeau, the practical shaman. For those of you who don't necessarily know me, uh, well, you must know me because you're here. But there's some new people who are here, and I'm really loving the fact that the circle is growing and these conversations are they came about because I did a survey at the beginning of the year, which I've never done before, and I asked people what they needed and what they wanted and what they were willing to, how they were willing to show up or not show up. And I'm loving, Vicky, I'm loving that we have Green Bank in the house. I'm looking forward to coming home next month and that we have people from all over the world here today. Well, not all over the world, but we have a lot of people. And Ileana reached out to me and said, "Oh, this the subject you're talking about, holding the fire without burning down the house is so in my wheelhouse." And we met years ago at this it was the biggest come on. It was called the Next Top Spiritual Author.
All
And it
right.
was the biggest marketing event you ever met where we all thought we were going to get a book deal. And the whole thing was we were promoting our books, which came about and they got hundreds of thousands of names because we were all very diligent in promoting our books. But what happened was midway through the competition, we all realized that we wanted to call it a cooperation because we all connected. And what I would say about that is so many of the people that I'm still connected with who are, partners on my upcoming Shift Network launch are people that I met at that cooperation. And the woman who won didn't even get her book published. I don't know why we were all like anxious to get our book published. And I submitted a book that I've never written. I mean, I wrote it, but it's stored away somewhere. And
Oh, really?
yeah, it's called The Shaman Chef, How Cooking Saved My Life. But what saved my life was
Right.
writing the book and coming to terms with, again, it goes so much into this topic today about, you know, holding the fire without burning down the village. I want to open because this is a powerful subject for people. This is a subject about power, misuse of power, authority, and where we stand in that. And so I want to light a candle. And if you have a candle, I know probably Erica does, light a candle. Because when I went outside before we started, I blew the wind whistle. And what happened was something that never ever happened for me before was that this bubble filled up. And some of my windwalkers might have had this experience, but this whole bubble expanded around. And I felt like, wow, we were creating a bubble that a container, a safe container for a conversation to take place, and a very necessary conversation. And I don't need to get into the gossip or any of it, but I'm gonna call in the wind, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Ileana for an exercise, and she's gonna introduce herself. We're kind of a little bit. No, you're not going yet,
I know,
Laura.
I know. Sorry about that.
That's all right. But I'm there like, well, I should always pull an oracle for these conversations, right? Well, I looked over, I said, I should always pull an oracle for these conversations. And this one jumped out of the deck. I didn't even get a chance to shake them up, pull them up, because this one flipped itself over and said, you can do all of that work, but I'm going to come back out anyway. So the wind that we have that I'm going to call in today is Deda, which is the Slavic or Polish wind of compassion. And it's about finding freedom and forgiveness. Isn't that isn't that the heart of this conversation about finding freedom and forgiveness for ourselves and for others? And let's call to Deda. And if you're new to the wind work, what we do is we breathe in and hold it. And because we're going to do a second exercise, I'm just going to call to Dakota one time. We're not going to do 3 deep wind breaths. We're going to do it once, and we're going to invite Dakota in. We're going to invite the spirit of compassion and forgiveness into this conversation, because that's the intent that we want to have here, is that we're going to do these breakouts and we're going to look at, where we've been in a misuse of power and where we've given our power away. But before I get into that conversation, I'm going to call to the wind, and then I'm going to have Eliana do an exercise to open up the circle. Okay? So I invite you to close your eyes and breathe in. Hold it. And let's merge with the wind of the compassion with the Goda. And in that emptiness that we feel, that we know, that wind, I invite Eliana to share her beauty and her expertise.
Mm, thank you for that beauty, Renee, and the beauty that you are, and those who are here, and the power that you are. My name is Eliana Gilad, and I'm joining you from southern Portugal in western Iberia. I'm sharing, 3+ decades of the revival of an ancient Mediterranean sonic tradition for leaders for when the world shakes, and traditionally when there is great transition. And this cosmic melody that you're about to experience, it was composed for so it's so poetic how things happen. It was composed for a major world event co-created with Barbara Marx Hubbard that some of you may know at the turn of the last century. And our shared vision was for us to attune to the source of our power, both individually and collectively in the silence behind the sound. The elements, as we just experienced so beautifully, plus that of the hydraulic power of water. Think about it, how water can, one drop of water over a period of time can bore a hole in the hardest stone. And our voices are that powerful. So at the source of your voice, I'd like you to check now. You could close your eyes for a moment. Check from on a scale of 1 to 10, how steadily connected do you feel to your center? And if you really want to be honest, go ahead and check with what's going on in the world, the thing that stirred you up to come here today. How connected do you feel from 1 to 10? Let's say 1 is totally disconnected and 10 is, oh, I'm Buddha on steroids. Okay? And, I know that. And then go ahead and you can place your hand on your heart. And let's take another breath in and out. And then once the sound stops, we'll check in again for a moment, and then I'll pass back to you, Renee. Now check again on a scale of 1 to 10.
If you understand English but can't
Whoops.
speak, this is for you. You know the words. You understand movies, YouTube.
The National Football League welcomes you to the app.
Go ahead and check now on a scale from 1 to 10. How connected do you feel now? And even with just 5% more, allow that space of being connected. Like focus on that as Renee goes to take you deeper now. And with that, I hand the field back to you, Renee, and bid you adieu.
What a beautiful field that is. Thank you. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about how we set up our false realities about our lives a lot. It happened for me a few years ago when I was thinking how great I was doing at the fire tender ceremony. It was the most connected I ever felt. And yet, the very next day, I was standing at the airport and I got a phone call that somebody died in my house. And it was a moment where I got slammed back into the reality of that this construct of my awakening, this construct of who I think I am, is always shaky and it's changeable and permeable. And when I just heard that music, I went into some sadness. I went into a deeper, yes, connected, but connected to my sadness. And this is this is a hard, this is out of some of the topics we cover, this is a more difficult one. Last year, when I was writing my new book, The Practical Shaman, a really deep, a friend of mine of almost over 30 some years said, are you going to include the initiation stories of how you got here? Are you gonna, am I don't think she wanted me to be a telltale of all my dirty little secrets, but there's been initiations that have been really extremely hard. And they started when I was one of the first women in the kitchen in New York City. And the French chefs, they didn't want to teach us. They didn't want us to know the secrets of the kitchen. And they would send me to the closet for some stupid spice when they were seasoning the dish on the stove, so I wouldn't see what was going into it. There's been this secretness around sacred practices for a long, long time. And and we have a part of all of this. It's not without merit, it's not without teaching. And recently, uh, this this Epstein guy, what a catalyst he is for this world bubbling up, this hidden, dark, gooey, ooey oil that's been going on for a long, long time. Even for politics, it it's hard for me personally to separate out the politicians from my father, who I used to sit at the table with, who would, slander this one and slander that one. I remember one time going to dinner for my high school graduation with my Jewish friends, and my father didn't know how to act around Jewish people. So he immediately picked up the entire check for the whole table so he could confirm his bias. See, they're cheap. It was like, and I'm there like, because he was so uncomfortable. He didn't know how to do it. And this is the difficult conversation that we're having right now at this time. And I kind of wrote down a few ideas. We're going to journey to in a little while to our integrity. So let me just kind of tell you where we're going to go. I'm having a little bit of a talk, as I always love to talk, and then we're going to break out into groups where we're going to actually get to look at what's the heart of this that's been bubbling up for me that called me here today. Then we're going to go on a journey and meet the gatekeeper of our own integrity, because I was looking at like, what is this? What is this about us that have created these bigger than life gargoyles in our life that we've given over all our authority to? And then once we give them, and it's happened with me where I was on people's pedestals and I fell off. And I fell off hard. And I know Gordon, you're a teacher. We've all fallen off the pedestal when all of a sudden we're we're doing one thing and then people all of a sudden don't like you anymore. And then we have our egos about it. It's like, oh, what did I do wrong? And it might have been just their best teaching experience. I remember once that I had a teacher who said to me, Renee, you're riding on my coattails, get off. It was such a slam. We've never spoken again. It's been 20 years. But he was right. I was riding on his coattails, and had he not given me the boot, I might not have ever found the windward because I was promoting other people, taking other people on trips and doing things. But because I was doing that for everyone else, my sack of shame and my sack of projections and my sack of, people that I gave over my power to is pretty heavy. And did I put them in the practical shaman? Not in that light. None of them went in that light, with the exception of maybe the one teacher who took advantage of a student when we were at a workshop that I spent the night holding in sacred space. And I think the editor changed that around a lot. But it happens. But why does it happen? Well, this morning, I thought I had a whole talk. This morning, I woke up and what I was shown was that why it happens is because of our humanity need to belong. Because of our need to belong, we sometimes turn the cheek. Sometimes we're looking for that attention. Sometimes we want to belong more than we want to look beneath the sheets at what the person is teaching. And I remember distinctly the day that I went out and said, wow, some of these teachers that I've worked with have not been in integrity. They're sleeping with their students. You know, they're, they stole my work. All of these different things. And, but I wanted so much to fit in that I was willing to turn the other cheek. How many of you have been there? That you've done that, like sold out your own soul in order to fit in. And I really tried to be that teacher who doesn't do that. Like Erica. Erica is the wind work assistant, but she's really stepping into her own work. And so we tend to share each other's work a lot. And because I think that we're at this point where if you resonate more with Erica's work than my work, then you might go there. And I want the students in my life who show up because they're interested in my work. And when you come into this place of your own work and the meaning of your own work, it requires you to keep going deeper and keep growing that work. For example, the Windwork Field Journal, which is years in the making, is going to be able to take all the people who have studied windwork so that they can go out and teach the work. Because yes, you can sit on your powerful pedestal, but if your work doesn't spread with the wind, then you're standing on the pedestal and then the students go off and do something else and you're still just standing on your own pedestal. But there's this piece that not only that is that it's our projections of what we think power looks like in the teachers and what they have that we don't have that that furthers that fire, that furthers that. And there's always collapse under a pedestal. The pedestal always collapses. Think of the people in your life that you've held on a pedestal. And think of their fall from grace, whether it was the best one that's the closest to us is our beloveds. When we have a beloved in our life and they fall from grace, like it's called the infatuation phase. And then all of a sudden you say, oh, they leave their dirty socks on the floor. And then they fall from grace. And then you spend the rest of your lifetime, unless you heal, trying to fix them, trying to change them, trying to put them back into the ideal vision that you've had of them. And the collapse can lead to your own maturity. If you are in relationship with people who want to grow too, then you grow. It's not like going we can't grow without going through changes with people. Just doesn't work. Who here has been in a long, long-term relationship? And think about it. How many times have you had to change together, deepen the relationship in order to stay in some kind of harmony with that person? I'm staying this year with we've been in partners, some kind of a partnership for over 30 years. And it's not a lover relationship, it's a soul relationship and a family type of relationship now. But our relationships had to go deeper. And there's been times that it's been an uneven growth where it'd be like all of a sudden she's demanding more out of the conversation than I can give. Other times, I'm trying to, pull us up by the bootstraps. And this is the way, this is the way we feed the fire with kindling so that it can keep burning and give it the oxygen it needs to grow and sustain ourselves. And I think community is calling for that same kind of evolution and same kind of growth. That's why I've come up with these conversations because it's not just all about me talking about it with you. It's about you looking into yourself to see where you still have the resentment. I'm going to ask you now to look at this. Which teachers And there's plenty right now on politics, or there's politics, there's this whole thing with, the spiritual leaders that have just been called out in the Epstein work and that that doctor, she certainly called out a lot of teachers and several of mine and several of teachers that my friends worked with were on the list. How many people had, the doctor that I'm talking about, what's her name? I forget her name. She wrote this whole article on Substack and called out all of the teachers who yelled at their staff in the green room, uh, who visited Epstein's Island, all of them, and all of the teachers who said nothing about it. Now, when she talks about the teachers who said nothing about it, I think that's her own work. That's her own projection. Because if I've spent a lifetime getting 20,000 people on my email list or 50,000 or 100,000, is it necessarily my work to call out the other teachers who haven't showed up in integrity? That's, here we go with my Practical Shaman book. No, it wasn't my work. It was to show you a path forward on how you could grow through your own disillusionment, your own disappointments. I had a student reach out to me 10 years after a trip to Mexico to tell me that she thought the shaman mishandled her after the ceremony. She had been holding that for 10 years, which left me no place to turn with it, left me nothing that I could do with it. And those things happen. There's, there's people in Peru who had relationships with my students. There's just, I can't, the list is long. The list is very, very long. And we our work is to shed light upon our own projections, upon our own needs, upon our own belonging. This morning I woke up and I was getting a clear message that I needed to bring up this topic about our need to belong, which is somewhere in the middle of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And it's like it pushes our projections. It pushes our belief in teachers who have the answers. And I've been saying for 10 years, the guru is dead. I did a lot of practices with the Swami, but I just couldn't quite understand why I needed to put on a dress and I needed to be subservient and I needed to do all of these other parts to get the teaching. And so I'm looking at that. I have a class coming up on my own issues around authority and refathering ourselves the 1st of April for the College of Psychic Studies. It's a whole refathering class and how we relate to authority that is one of my shadows. I had a boss. I didn't like his integrity, so I showed him no respect. That's a issue. And it comes to how I was fathered. And I think that right now, this whole idea of fathering is up for us. And, we've all talked about, oh, we have this new divine feminine we need. But no, I think we need to refather ourselves. I think we need to repattern the fathering energy. And I'm really excited about that new body of work that I'm bringing out next in the next little bit. Because what I've learned is misuse does not negate the medicine. Get that? Misuse does not negate the medicine. It asks us for maturity. Last week I was at the Conscious Life Expo in LA, and this woman told me she just took a course with one of my former teachers. I had to shove a sock in my mouth and sit on my hands and say, yes, this person has brought thousands of Westerners into medicine work. It's about finding the gift. Some of the people that I met in this work 25 years ago are still the people who are still my friends, still supporting me, like that next top spiritual cooperation we were talking about at the beginning. Whether or not the leader of this had just come up with the best marketing scheme in history, I have to look at what were the benefits of this path through the forest for me. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do now. I'm going to ask you to find and take some time to write it down. And then I'm going to give you a few minutes to write it down. And then I'm going to divide us into 6 groups and you're going to have a conversation. And let me just tell you the rules up front. We're not calling out organizations, we're not calling out people, we're not calling out names. We're looking at in our lives, where have I experienced misuse of power? Sorry, I should have written them and put them up there, but you can. Where have I placed the authority outside of myself? Where have I lost my trust? And what did that experience teach me? And in that, what did that experience teach me? What is the gift? Like I was telling you, that guy who kicked me off the curb, the gift was I discovered wind work. I wrote a Hay House book. I've got the field guide. I've got the Windwalker Wisdom Oracle. And I take people on walking journeys. Now, had I been embraced in the circle of belonging that I so wanted, I might not be sitting here talking to you today. I might be teaching somebody else's material. So take a few minutes while I break you into groups and gather what's important, what's on your heart today to have in this conversation. And I invite the other people to witness what somebody else is sharing. We know we don't really have to have feedback about it, but we're witnessing, and you responses could be, that happened to me too. I see you, you know, but remember, it's not about the gossip, it's not about the perpetrators, it's about our own healing. All right, I'm going to send you to the breakout groups, and somebody set a timer so that each person has 3 minutes. All right. as one of my places of power. And Gordon, I popped into these rooms and I heard Gordon saying something about the most damage that he's has been done, and I'm paraphrasing, is when he's misused his own power.
Mm.
And that one's very subtle.
I,
Well, not so subtle all the time, but it can be subtle because learning, misusing your own power is
yeah.
kind of a really big deal. And I had to, that was probably one of my harder shamanic lessons was when I misused my own power. Right now, before we hit to the journey, I'd love to hear if people had a few from a few of you. Just know you're on recording at this point. So if you speak up now, it's going to be for the few people who missed the live class. And so if you had a really interesting revelation about something that surprised you or something that you feel could benefit us all, like that misuse of our own power, um, and just a reminder for us as a group, like of witnessing others is so key here. Like I think about the women who are still struggling with this Epstein release are they feel like that they weren't able to be witnessed. Their abuse was not being able to be witnessed when so many people were shut down and silenced around it. So we're sacred witnesses for each other. So if people are speaking up now, I ask to hold that container as a sacred witness to what they would want to share. Anyone like to share? Susan?
I'll go along with that one. I was sharing that I gave my husband a lot of power, and then I realized just now as we were talking and what Gordon said, how that putting all those expectations on him was really kind of unfair because that denied him the chance to respond from his own choices, and having all those expectations on my part led to a lot of disappointments. And once I could pull that back and see my own shadow in that, and allow him to be who he was and me to be who I am, I began to see where I gave my power away and how I gave my power away, and all of the shadow work I've had to do on that since.
Mm-hmm.
I just had kind of a revelation, if I could. So you talk about misusing our own power, and we actually sometimes don't realize how much power we have. Like we judge each other a lot. I think in our society, maybe more than others, Western civilization, we're judging each other, and that really puts a burden on the person that we're looking at. I think it's not helpful, and it's something to be aware of.
Hmm. I think that's true. Even our teachers, like that, we're human.
True, true.
If you,
I've been noticing a lot of finger pointing these days, so I've been thinking about that. Yeah.
if you want to, if I could share an exercise, and I'll just do the brief version of it.
Oh, wait. We're not the exercise. We'll come
Oh,
back to your exercise later.
oh,
We're like,
okay. Well, it's and that's to the question that we're talking about right now, the misuse of
okay,
power.
all
It's
right.
just I don't want to go off on a tangent, but um, I ask people if they are dragons or dragon slayers without giving them any information about that. And everybody could do that right now for themselves, but it doesn't matter. The bottom line is, and I've had husbands and wives start off and they say, one of them says I'm a dragon, one of them says I'm a dragon slayer, and then they argue about what that means. No, you're not that, and vice versa, and on and on and on. And this goes on for a long time. But the bottom line is, and this is the whole point of the exercise, is that there's no such things as dragons. And so, but there are people who think that they have to be opposed to whatever the other person is saying, uh, because that's in our nature. We are. it's trial and error. It's built into us. It's responding quickly to what we feel are um, important, dangers, etc. So we are making snap judgments all the time, regardless of whether or not the dangers or issues are really as pressing as we want to make them out to be. That's basically the whole thing. So that's my exercise. I'm
And
done.
you can email me that, and I'm happy to share that in the group how that
Okay.
looks. But I want to tell you, you're in a group of people who don't believe that there's no dragons. So that
Well,
I would be careful about
uh,
that. Just
well,
saying.
I mean on a physical level.
I don't know. I had a talk about dragons, and they find them to be true. So,
Okay.
Andre.
Yeah, a couple of things came up. One is what we just discussed is giving away the power. And I did a workshop recently, and one of the questions in a kind of worksheet was who dishonored you the most? And my shock there was that it was me. So in all my life, right, I was the person who dishonored me the most. That was like, wow, a
Mm-hmm.
big revelation to how harsh we can be on ourselves. And the second was just as what we're talking about, the kind of different roles, and regardless of the dragons, or how we call it, we do get stuck in a drama triangle, right? All the time. It's our human nature. And yeah, we would kind of do it instead of considering each other as just a fellow human traveler on the life journey, right? That we're all just really learners, we're all the travelers, and how beautiful life would be if we could just approach any conversation from that place.
Mm. Well, that's so much easier said than done, for sure. I know in my own experience that it's always like it's like the sandpaper gets finer, but yet the sandpaper still exists for, smoothing off those hard edges. And there's nothing like relationships to teach us that, I find for myself. Does anyone else want to share before we move into how this felt for you, before we move into the journey to meet the gatekeeper of our own integrity? And I think that sounds like such a perfect journey considering so many of us are like raise your hand if the person who has you've misused the power with is a lot of times been yourself. So I think to have that gatekeeper of our integrity to be a check-in even for ourselves.
Yeah.
Am I misusing power right now to get what I want? Um, because I'm trying to get for myself. I always know that I'm in trouble when there's something that I'm expecting back. And, it can be so subtle. It can be so baffling. Before we go to the journey, does anyone else want to share? No?
I would like to mention something
Mm-hmm.
with kids. It's very clear when we misuse our own power, and it happens especially when we're not so present or afraid. I've noticed with myself that if I run away in my head with some fear about my child, then I may speak more harshly than I would otherwise. And that would result in, of course, a scared child, or definitely not. It's misuse of my power. And wanted to mention that I do find it challenging to find a balance in the harshness and directness in which I would put my views or yeah, express myself.
Mm,
I'm not talking about the intentions, but yeah, I see that as misuse of power.
mm. I so totally relate to that, like, because I can be direct, and hope you didn't take me personally, Gordon,
No,
because I want to keep this on how we're feeling. Um, and I've had that in my own life about how do I need to be hard and bossy and pushy in order to get my message across. And I don't know if some of you have been studying with me for a minute, realize that this year I've tried a whole different approach. And who's noticed it is like the other teachers. Like this one teacher had a course on, she was calling it something about fascism. And I said, yeah, I can't share that right now because that's just not the work that I'm putting out there. I'm happy to support your other class, but your free intro class, I can't support because I'm trying to walk people in an easier, softer way towards this collapse that I think that we're in with nature. And it's really new for me. And I mean, the first year I was teaching in my apprenticeship program, I would tell people what I saw, and they all went packing. They left. It was like, that was just a tad too honest, Renee. So I get that about how do, and here's a very interesting question that we can ask that our gatekeeper of our inner authority. How do I show up in a way that reflects my softer style? Like, how can I be in my power as a woman, as a feminine teacher, I'm certainly really kind of non-binary in my approach to things, but I I love my masculine, and I've come to learn to appreciate my feminine over the years. And for when I was growing up, we believed that the we had to take on that masculine format of power, which was a misnomer, but that was what we did to get to that's how I got to be a chef. The first chef I worked for said, "Hey, there's no changing room for girls in my kitchen. You're going to have to change in my office." So I had to acquiesce to be that. And now that I'm getting ready to teach this other course on refathering, I realize, well, I became that, but I became the broken version of that because it was broken in me. And how could I share that? How could I hold that masculine energy that had been usurped from me by villains, by people who took advantage? I mean, when Winds of Spirit came out and I had done Ancestry.com, I learned about 4 or 5 other siblings. I thought my father died and I buried my resentments, that I buried the burdens of his, his abuse. But then all of a sudden it came back out to visit me again. So this work that I'm working on this year is really about my refathering so that I can stand in the authority of myself as well. And we always teach what we need to learn. That said, we're going to move into our journey, and we're going to meet the gatekeeper of integrity. Some of
Mm.
you were in my gatekeepers class last week, and the we're going, it's kind of a middle world journey for those of you who are journeyers, where we're going to root ourselves, and then we're going to find that gate, that old, it might be new, eh, and we're going to find which spirit lives at that gate who can help us find our next path of clarity around our own integrity. Is there any questions about that? And I'm going to journey. And when you meet them, you're going to ask questions like, you're going to let them know, I'll guide you, why you've come. Uh, you want to understand about clean power. Clean power, and since Gordon, you brought that up, clean power, how you deliver power and how you receive power. What does it look like in my life now? Where where did I might miss that I've given away my authority? And this is a very important question because this is called holding the fire without burning down the village. What fire is mine to carry? And think about it, back when shamans went village to village, they would carry the stick, they would carry the light of fire. Which is the light of fire that's yours to carry? And ask that gatekeeper to give you that stick of fire that you can carry in your community and in your life. Are there any questions? Okay. Do I have my... Can you hear my drum? I invite you to close your eyes and ground. Think back to that beautiful sounding that Eliana shared with us. And connect to the heart of this class, the heart of the people, the heart of your own power. Take a deep wind breath in. Exhale. Take another deep breath. Hold it. And now send it out through your tailbone, out into the earth, connecting with the roots so that you're deeply, deeply connected to the earth. And find yourself in your favorite place in nature. You is a path, the power path. Start to head through the woods, on the beach, in a field. And up ahead there's a gate. Of the gate, the color, the texture, the age. The gatekeeper of your inner power, your inner authority. Come here. Be with me. And notice, how does this gatekeeper show up? Is it an animal? Is it a person? and take a few minutes to write down a few notes. When we share about our journeys, I was taught that we keep parts of them sacred. There's parts that we don't just blurt out and share until we've really absorbed them all. And then sometimes there's ahas and little surprises that aren't going to change the sacredness of the experience for you that we can share. And for the next few minutes, I would love to hear who met the dragon. I have to say, Gordon, you started it because all of a sudden, in the middle of the journey, I'm thinking of Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in the land called Honolulu. Well, I haven't thought of that song in 50 years. And so it was kind of a not a fire breathing dragon who I know, funny, huh? Let's see what you started. So anyone want to share a little bit about their journey? We haven't heard from Jean, she's over there, and Margaret and Vicky. I mean, if anyone, so we haven't heard from, I'd love to hear. Oh, Izzy, perfect. Come,
Hi, thanks so
hi.
much. I so enjoyed that. I wanted to share who I met because it actually has a really interesting aha moment for me. So my gate was quite heavy. It sort of looked like an iron, almost barricade. And when I looked at it, as the gatekeeper came forward, they said the strength of the gate, when you go against your integrity, that heavy weight is what you feel and you carry. Like that's how strong integrity is. Um, and I really did resonate with that. But my gatekeeper was the cow spirit. And where I live, we actually have roaming livestock. It's quite a special area. And I had an unfortunate experience where a cow appeared out of nowhere and actually charged at me and my dog. And my dog got severely injured from the incident. And I've always had a bit of a interesting relationship with cows since. So when the cow appeared, I had to sort of, really trust why it had emerged. And it did gently ask me, were you in integrity, when you were on that walk and, when you met the cow? And I was thinking back to that while we were speaking, and I remember I was in a little bit of a mood actually when I set off on that walk. I wasn't very happy about something that was going on, and I was walking not really in full, integrity to myself at the time. And I just found that really interesting actually that I sort of got a little bit of healing for that moment with the gatekeeper as well. So thank you so much for the experience.
Beautiful, thank you. Anyone else?
I would love to share.
Okay.
As I was walking the sunny path on the sea, and I reached a gate, a massive gate actually, with very intricate, like embroidery almost, or fairy tale like symbols in it. And it opened, and there was the Dragon of Happiness from a book. And looked a little bit like a dog in the head, and a big smile. And the power was in stories and knowledge. And interestingly, the emphasis was on your stories, my stories, not anyone's stories, and imagination. And that was also the gift. It was like a book of light, but I couldn't see anything in it. I was staring at it, and I realized that it was to be coming up from me. So that was it.
Thank you for sharing. I think, Gordon, you brought us, so now we're like imagining dragons.
I have to add my personal belief for myself, and everything I say is completely selfish. I understand that, including my personal desire to do something for other people. I think that's selfish in a way because I get something out of it. I get a lot out of it. So, but the Dragon Slayer dragon thing, in my own head, I'm both, and everybody really is both all the time, and at every level. I don't believe in anything. I don't have a set path for anything necessarily, but that doesn't mean that I don't act as if there are dragons, for instance, or as if there is such a thing as that we can define as power, or activities that we can define as being powerful activities. I just That's the way I act. If I act in a certain way, then and I get a personal benefit from it, and it's not hurting anybody else, I call that, you know, magic.
I love that. And in AA, they do that a lot. Like when you go through all the steps and do all of your work, then you come around to being of service. I remember in AA, I was sitting there and I dragged a friend to this 12-step process because I wanted them to get sober. That was my thinking. And I thought, like, why is this woman up here doing this group Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday? I was so selfish. All I wanted was what's in it for me to get what I wanted from this other person. And by the time that I went through all of those steps and made all of those amends, because I had a lot of amends to make, because I misused my power a lot. I had to fly here and fly there, and I made all of those amends. And I sat there and I read this inventory to somebody, and there was quiet for the first time. Next thing you know, there I was taking a group of people with eating issues through the 12 steps for the next 2 years. So I was that person standing at the front of the room thinking, so that transformation happens when we understand that power in it of itself isn't is neutral. Power is neutral. Just like energy can't be just transformed or extinguished, energy is energy, power is power. And what happens is it's our projections that cloud the discernments. When I went to that shamanic teacher wanting to be one of their teachers, that's when the power got misinterpreted for me, and who knows what happened for them, but for me, and it catapulted a lot of things that then happened in my life, and that's my responsibility in my teaching. But when we have that inner authority, when we go to that gate, when we go to the cow, when we go to the dragon, we get to say, is this my fire to carry? And did everyone get a fire to carry at the end? I was really surprised because at first I saw a torch and then I saw a book. Is that an interesting thing that, that a book, maybe with my teachings in it, might be my fire to carry? Like that I don't have to burn down the village. I need to teach people how to build a fire. I like that. I could end with that. If anyone else has anything else to share, yes, Susan?
I was given a coal, like the old
Oh, I love
hunter-gatherer
that.
had a
Uh-huh.
coal to carry in a pouch. And I guess it's just to influence people to come home to themselves and find their own soul growth and in a quiet way, because that's my way.
Hmm. Nicole is kind of an interesting thing for you too, because she studies the ruins and she teaches the ruins. And so a coal is kind of more shaped like a ruin type of a thing. That's kind of an interesting in a pouch because the ruins come in a pouch.
How they actually kept it going to carry it around so I can have that ancient technology in my knowledge bank.
Love that. That's so perfect. Anyone else? We have like 2 minutes left. I like to stay on time.
I would like to jump in.
Yay!
So thank you for sharing that. For you, it was a torch and a book, because I actually got the same exact thing.
Oh,
Um, the gate was golden and it was very ancient, male and female, a couple with hummingbird and lots of winged animals. And I was passed a torch, a fire, to understand the role of entitlement in blocking change and fueling the old system.
hmm.
And I'm just sitting with that. I'm not totally sure that I didn't make it all up, but that's okay.
That's a great way to end is that we see things, we hear things, we know things, we taste things. My guess is that this was a powerful journey and it may reveal itself to you more throughout the coming days or the day ahead. And just be with that. And I even if we made it up, it still showed up.
Right, right. Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
all right. I think I'll send the wind home and thank Dakota and carry that compassion in your heart and be with me. Take one final wind breath in. This was an important conversation. And the next conversation, I'm going to continue these monthly Sunday conversations. The next one is, I believe, April 11th, but I looked this morning. April 12th. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for opening your hearts. Thank you to the gatekeepers of power and to Eliana for her beautiful sounding technique and to Gordon who's going to share the dragon technique with us that we'll share in our WhatsApp group. And for each of you who came, and Erica put the WhatsApp chat in there. And so with that, we're going to send the wind home. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Renee.